Alright, hello and welcome to the pre-race runner briefing for the RunThrough Trails Delamere Forest full marathon, half marathon and 10k, which are happening this weekend on Sunday the 5th of November. Really excited to bring this event to this venue. I'm blown away by the reception for it. It's sold out really quickly. The course is amazing, the venue is great, and the staff there on the day are going to make it the best possible experience that they can for you. So just wanted to run through a few details so that you can rock up on race day feeling fully prepared. First thing I wanted to talk about is the weather. And for this time of year, it's pretty much what you'd expect. We're not expecting too much rain. We've got a few showers on the forecast, a little bit of cloud. We might get a bit of sun peeking through as well, and temperatures really aren't that cold. We're looking at a high by midday of about 10 degrees. So a little bit chilly first thing in the morning, but nothing too crazy, nothing unexpected. As far as the wind goes, there's moderate winds, but again, it's quite a sheltered course. There's lots of trees. You're pretty well sheltered. So yeah, weather-wise, nothing too crazy. I would definitely suggest bringing waterproof jacket, gloves, buffs, whatever you would normally wear for standard winter trail running. Another kind of additional thing with this course specifically is that the marathon runners are doing 2 laps of the half marathon route. So what we're calling Aid Station 3 or Old Pale Aid Station is located just after the event village for those marathon runners who are starting out on their second lap. So it's also totally possible for the marathon runners, if you're not sure about kit, to leave some additional stuff there at that aid station with those staff members, so that after you finish your first lap, if you are a bit wet or you are a bit cold, you can top up with some extra layers, chuck a pair of gloves on, whatever you might need. So that's a nice little thing that you could potentially consider. You could also just leave kit in the bag drop and just nip off and grab it from bag drop, because bag drop is going to be 20 meters away from the split where you're starting your second lap. So something worth considering for those marathon runners. Okay, so as I just mentioned, the main course is a 22-kilometer loop. That's the half marathon route, and the full marathon runners are doing 2 laps of that course. As far as the 10k is concerned, the first 6.5 kilometers of the loop is exactly the same as the half marathon and marathon runners, and you're going to split off just outside Manly Bike Park, loop around, do about a k and a half before you rejoin onto the main half marathon marathon loop and into the finish. So all 3 routes firstly entail going up the biggest climb on the course, which is Old Pale. It's not enormous, but it's fairly significant, and it's definitely a spot where you don't want to be going out too hard. So the path's quite wide at the start, and we're going to use waves, which I'll touch on later, to kind of spread the congestion on the first part of the course a little bit. But what you will find is people are going to go out too fast, they're going to run to the front, they're going to start going up that first climb, and they're going to immediately be knackered. So avoid doing that, just pace yourself nice and easy, especially for the half marathon and marathon runners. Getting to the top of that first climb on Old Pale, really you want to still feel quite comfortable, because there's a lot of the race left to go. And then everything beyond Old Pale is pretty much just undulating. There's not loads of complete pancake flat, but there are no other significant climbs. It's just lots of little up and downs, really nice runnable terrain. So the next thing I wanted to touch on is the staff that we're going to have on course for the event. So we're going to have a load of marshals and volunteers spread out around the course. As with all of our trail courses, we don't have as many marshals as we might have on like a road closed event. We will have marshals at every road crossing. We will have a load of staff at all of the aid stations to assist with that stuff. And we do have some marshals dotted around the course just to make sure that there's no stretches that are too long where you're not going to see a member of staff. And also if there are any kind of potentially confusing junctions with a number of different paths, we've stationed marshals there to make sure that navigation-wise it's very straightforward for you guys on the day. With regards to those road crossings, and there are a few on the course, they're fairly quiet roads, and most of the people driving along those roads are actually people coming to use the forest, so it's not major busy roads by any means. We will have staff on all those crossings. The longest you're going to wait is a few seconds at the most. Best case, you're probably just going to run straight across. But please do pay attention to those marshals and listen to their instructions just for your own safety, and make sure that it's safe to cross before doing so. Some other considerations out on the course. There are some gates on the course that are to contain livestock. So obviously anytime you get into a gate that's closed when you get there, you want to close it behind yourself. Pretty standard practice. The other thing to bear in mind is that Delamere Forest is a really popular area for people to walk their dogs, go with their families, ride their bikes. We don't have exclusive use of the forest, so we are sharing these trails with people. We will have signs up informing them that there's a race in progress and to act with caution and be careful of runners coming around corners and things like that. But as always, and you guys are great at this, just be nice, be kind, give people a wide berth. Let's just share the trails and treat people with respect, and everything's going to be all good. Okay, so in terms of signage for the 3 different distances, Bib numbers are going to be 3 different colours, obviously, so that we can identify runners when they get to the split at the event village. So the marathon runners who are going to be continuing on to their second lap when they get back to the event village after completing their first lap, marathon runners are wearing a green coloured number, a green bib. The half marathon runners are going to have a red coloured bib, and the 10k runners are going to be wearing blue. The markings on the course, because the marathon course is just 2 laps of the half marathon, like I keep repeating, they're all going to be red markings. So red wire flags and red correct signs. That's what the marathon and half marathon runners are going to be following. The 10k runners, all of your course marking signage, so again flags and correct signs, is going to be blue to match your bibs. So red for the full marathon and half marathon, and blue for the 10k. In areas where your courses are the same and the paths are crossing over, you're going to see those flags and signs nested together, so you're going to see red and blue. And then in sections where it's only full or half marathon and only 10k runners, you'll only see the red or the blue before they merge back together. As always, our team do an incredible job of marking these courses. It's going to be absolutely bomb-proof. You are not going to get lost. But if you've gone more than 200-300 meters and you haven't seen a sign or a flag, just stop, retrace your steps back to where you were. It's possible that you've missed a turn. It's very unlikely to happen, but anything can happen. We also recommend that, especially for the half marathon and marathon runners, that you guys download the GPX route onto your watch or your phone. Now, that's not mandatory for this race like it would be for a Ladybower or Tissersworth, where the terrain is a little bit more remote and a bit more complex, but still it's nice to have that peace of mind, and personally it's something that I would definitely do. Those files are downloadable both on the website and on the race information guide that's been sent out this week. Okay, so the next item on the list is food and hydration. So as with all of our trail races, this is a coupless event. We won't be handing out bottles of water on the course. Finishers will get a bottle of water when they finish the race, and we also have access to the great facilities at the cafe and the visitor centre there, where you can fill up your bottles pre-race using the taps and things in there. We do, however, have a number of aid stations on the course. So these aid stations are going to be stocked with the standard stuff that we always have at our events. So you're going to have water, Coca-Cola, oranges, brownies, maybe some flapjacks. We should have some salted crisps as well. And we're also going to have a number of the protein rebel gels that we used at the Ladybower event that proved really popular. I think they're maple syrup and sea salt. So they're all the options that you'll have available to you on course if you need to top up. But as always, and as I would always do personally, I would really recommend using what you trained with. So take your own stuff with you, be self-sufficient, and use this aid station stuff as little extras if you're not sure what you might want when you're feeling a bit tired. If you've trained with a particular type of energy chew or gel, or you like to eat bananas or whatever it happens to be, always going to recommend just sticking to that so that you're not going to have any surprises on the day. With regards to hydration, really important to remember, even though it's cold, you're still going to get dehydrated. If you're wearing a rainproof jacket and it's maybe not that breathable, that's going to make you sweat. You're still going to be losing moisture. Every time you breathe, you're going to be losing moisture. You will eventually become dehydrated. So even if it's cold, really try and go little and often with the fluids, get plenty of liquids in. And like I say, we'll have Coke at the aid stations as well if you need a little bit of a sugar boost. So in terms of aid stations, you will be passing them multiple times on both the half marathon and the marathon. So the marathon actually passes 7 aid stations, and the half marathon passes 3 aid stations in total. So the 10k runners will only be passing the Ashton Road aid station. So there's only 1 aid station on the 10k, and that comes at about the halfway point. It's probably at around 6 kilometers or just before 6 kilometers. The half marathon runners are going to pass that same aid station, and then the next aid station they'll pass twice after doing a short loop around the Whitefield car park area. And then the marathon runners are going to pass all those aid stations plus this additional aid station at Old Pale, which is just past the event village when you start your second lap. The additional thing for marathon runners to bear in mind there, as with the cold weather kit, which I mentioned earlier, the gloves and jackets that you might want to leave there, you can actually drop off personal nutrition. It's one of the advantages of this being a 2-lap marathon. So we're going to have staff on those tables. Pre-race, you can drop off gels, you can drop off additional food in a little pile. Maybe you've got some soft flasks that you've pre-filled with electrolyte mix, whatever you've been using, you'll be able to pick those up on the way through and also deposit any empty items there to be collected post-race. So that's quite a nice little thing for this event. The next thing worth bearing in mind when it comes to fueling and hydration is that we're going to have litter. So we're going to have caps off gels, we're going to have skins from bananas, like whatever it happens to be. One thing that we take really seriously with all of our events and that our runners generally are amazing at doing and taking seriously is abiding by those leave no trace principles. So we want to come into these areas, these forests, these woodlands, and we want to leave them in better condition than what we found them in. So if you are running around and you see a bit of litter on the floor, whether it's something to do with the race or not, pick it up, chuck it in a bin, stick it in your pack, chuck it in the bin when you get back to the event village. We want to really leave these trails in a better condition than we found them. With that being said, our course team will be doing a full course sweep at the full marathon cutoff times, which we'll get to afterwards, towards the end of the race. So they will be a last line of defence to pick up any bits that have been mistakenly dropped or forgotten. So that brings us on to the cutoffs. So we've got a 7-hour cutoff for the full marathon. The marathon race starts at 8 a.m, the half marathon starts at 9 a.m, and the 10K starts at 10 a.m. So that's nice and simple, an hour between each race. So for the marathon runners, the cutoff time at the finish of the event village for the slowest finisher is 3 p.m, so that's 7 hours total. We will have rolling cutoffs at the various aid stations. The first one that will be enforced as such will be a 3.5 hour cutoff at the end of the first lap. The idea behind that, like, we're not trying to be harsh, we're not trying to make it intimidating, but if you've struggled to complete the first lap in 3.5 hours, its likelihood is that you're only going to get slower then. At that point, you'll be welcome to just pass through the gantry and collect a half marathon finish time, which is absolutely fine, rather than heading out for the second lap. So 3.5 hour cutoff for that first lap, 7 hour cutoff for the entire race. Any runners who are struggling and you get into an aid station and you don't think you're going to make the timings, no problem at all. We're going to have medics stationed at those aid stations, as well as lots of volunteers and staff, and course team members are going to be able to come and pick you up and bring you back to the event village. It's not a particularly long drive due to the nature and the layout of this course for our staff to get from the event village and the start finish out to any of the aid stations. So yeah, that's easily handled. With regards to the medics, they'll be stationed in the event village, and as I said, at the aid station. You guys should have the medic phone number, which was distributed on the race information email, and also will be shared with you on the day of the event by Ben Shepherd, our MC, when he does the pre-race briefings. If you don't have it when you get to registration and you're collecting a number as well, you could always ask the reg staff for the medic number and pop it into your phone then. In terms of procedure for the medics, if you're anywhere near a marshal on course or an aid station when you do sustain an injury, if you do, I shouldn't say when, touch wood, I'm sure it won't happen, but if it does, you can inform that member of staff and they can call the medics for you and inform them of your location. If you're out on course and you don't have any staff or aid stations nearby, you can simply just call that medic phone number. The phone signal's pretty good pretty much everywhere, and call the medics, give them a loose idea. I'm this distance past this aid station, I crossed the road X amount of time ago. They're going to be able to work out where you are by following the route around. And other runners passing any injured runners, again, nice thing just to check that they're okay, and when you get to the next marshal, inform them just in case this person's struggling to get hold of the medics so we can get help to them as soon as possible. The last little thing I want to touch on with regards to the race starts, and I mentioned it earlier, is the introduction of waves. Going to be approximately waves of 200 people. You're going to be separated out by our pacers or by other members of staff. Now, this isn't something that is going to impact your time at all. Your chip time does not start until you pass the timing mat under the start gantry, and it finishes when you finish the race. So there's no problem if it takes you 2-3 minutes to get across the start line due to these waves and the kink in the barriers. Your time will not start until you pass under the gantry and over the timing mat. The reason we're doing this is it's just going to give you all a better experience. It's going to ease congestion on the first few sections of the course and just allow you all to spread out across the course. Other than that, the very last thing to talk about is just how excited I am to see you all there. I'm not going to be there personally myself, unfortunately. I'm off to Sweden for a race this weekend, but we do have an amazing team on site. We've got James and Jess and Callum in the event village looking after you all, and we've got Chris, Graham, Cole and John out on course. These guys have been out, like I said, recceing the course, checking the course. I've been out there with them. They've run the route a number of times now. Graham's even been walking it today, putting some signs and stuff like that up as well. So these guys are going to do a full setup on Saturday, and they'll let Ben know exactly what conditions are looking like so he can inform you all in the pre-runner briefing before the race starts. Other than that, just get out there and enjoy it. Honestly, this place is amazing. Generally speaking, the surface is not too weather affected. It's a lot of hard standing. There'll be some muddy sections, there'll be some puddles. In terms of footwear, actually, is something I wanted to touch on before I sign off here. I would recommend a cushioned trail shoe. I definitely wouldn't go with a road shoe because there will be some slippy, muddy sections, and I wouldn't go with a very minimal, very aggressive trail shoe like a fell running shoe because that might be quite harsh on some of the hard packed sections. So think runnable fast service road type terrain, most of it in terms of surfaces, and even if it does rain a lot day before, it drains quite well. And it's November, we're trail running, it's nice to get a bit muddy and get out there and get cold and have fun. So shout out to everyone who's racing, good luck to you all, I really wish you the best and I really hope you have a great day. Say hello to the staff, give the marshals a clap, say thank you, look after each other and let's get out there and have fun, and I look forward to hearing how you all get on post-race. See you soon.